Hello students, let's jump right into theories in Module 3. This is the first module of several theories that we're going to study, and so we're going to talk about psychoanalytic theories in counseling in this module. And I'm going to attempt to make this introductory video much shorter than the other ones have been, so that you won't have to spend so much time watching this. So if you want to move along with me through the video, I'm using the introductory PowerPoint, and you can use that as well if you'd like to follow along, but it will appear on the screen. So what I'd like to talk to you about with psychoanalytic theories first is that they are very much foundational. That's one thing I would want you to remember. The reason we start with it first is because it's sort of foundational with Freud and Jung and that whole Vienna circle and the folks who fell out from that circle in psychotherapeutic counseling. So we'll talk about first the objectives of the module, and this matches up with the objective in your syllabus that talks about learning about the founders, the basic assumptions, the role of the counselor, techniques, and multicultural considerations, as always. So in this module, we cover psychoanalytic theories. The D2L content in this module includes a couple of PowerPoint presentations. One really is like your textbook. It covers psychoanalytic theories. So I would want you to use that as you would use a textbook, and pay special attention to anything in the PowerPoint presentation that has an asterisk beside it, because there are notes in the notes section of PowerPoint that are really important. Some of the assessment questions are taken from those notes, so be sure you pay special attention to those. Also, the second PowerPoint presentation is Erik Erikson's stages of psychosocial development, and we'll talk about Erikson just a little bit. There's a video about Erikson as well. There are 4 videos that are included in this module in your D2L content. One is, several. There are about 5 parts that are short, but that include information about Freud. Now, you may look at the content and you may say, whoa, there's a whole lot of stuff here. And there is a lot of stuff, but most of it is basically YouTube videos and things that I think you'll find of interest. And this is foundational, so it's real good for you to get a good grasp of how psychoanalysis started and how it relates then to psychotherapeutic theories today. One thing that I would mention to you before we go on is that while it is foundational, this psychoanalytic therapy, it is not in the form that it was in Freud's day. Today, there are newer contemporary models of it, and that's in your PowerPoint as well. So let's look at the date of the assessment. The Module 3 assessment will be on September 24th and 25th. In all, there are 20 multiple choice questions, and you have 14 minutes to take the test. And basically, the multiple choice has to do with matching up the founder with either the concept, the words, or the psychotherapeutic theory of that person. So the 20 multiple choice on the Module 3 assessment should be easy for you if you've covered everything in the PowerPoint and you've looked at the videos. Then the reason I wanted to be sure to include this is because your early semester progress test is then that Thursday and Friday. Now, as you might remember, having heard before and seen before in the registration, hopefully, that this is the only time you'll be on ground, and it's in the testing center in Sherrod Library. Thursday and Friday, the 26th and 27th, you should look at the website for the testing center to be sure that you have a grasp on the hours. Friday doesn't go as long as Thursday does, but you'll need to get to those to the testing center on those one of those 2 days. You will have 40 minutes to take the early semester progress test, and it includes the content of modules 2 and 3 not 4, because we will not have gotten to 4 yet, but it includes content out of modules 2 and 3. So if you have looked over the videos, PowerPoints, and all of the D2L content, and you've done your discussion forum questions and statements, you should be doing fine on the exam. There's true false, there's multiple choice, there's matching, there's also fill in the blank. So the degree of complexity is just a little bit harder than the Module 3 assessment and the Module 2 assessment. It counts 50 points, so it's a pretty important exam. And so good luck with it. If you have any questions, go to the open forum section and just throw your question in there and I'll respond. The discussion forum, the initial post deadline is September the 17th at 11:59, and posts made after September the 23rd will not be counted towards your discussion area total. Now, the reason for that is because the assessment and I'm talking about the Module 3 assessment here now, and the discussion forum for Module 3. The reason those posts won't count after 11:59 is that gives everybody at least the morning of the assessment to understand all and see all of the discussions that are about Module 3. The discussion forum format changes in Module 3. As you remember in Module 2, I had specific questions in there, and you gave each one of your group members an assigned question to answer. There are no assigned questions in this. The format is just a little bit different. But again, there's a 20-point opportunity in your discussion forum. Let's go to some highlights of psychoanalytical theory. First, it's really important for you to understand that this is foundational, and that the concepts that influence other psychotherapies are embedded in psychoanalytical therapies. And there's also some emphasis in the role of the past in psychoanalytical theory. And this is where the beginnings of the unconscious come up, something that Freud came up with, as he did with so many concepts in psychoanalytical theory. I want to talk to you a little bit about resistance, because resistance in psychoanalytical theory was looked on very negatively. Well, the client is resisting, so that's a really bad thing. But in today's aspects of psychoanalytical theory and other theories as we go forward, resistance really should be looked at. Resistance by the client to answer or talk is what I would call fodder. It is the stuff that needs to be looked at in more depth, more carefully. So while it was negative, the resistance, while it was negative in psychoanalytical theory, when it was founded, it is no longer looked at as a negative concept in therapy. It is something that offers you something to work with. Let's talk about transference and countertransference. This is really important because I have found in my other classes that it gets confused somewhat. So I'm going to go over this with you and let you know. Transference happens when the client projects a role onto the therapist. In my case, I might be someone's grandmother or someone's aunt or someone's mother. And lots of times that gets in the way, and lots of times that also offers some fodder for digging into, let's go a little deeper about why you're seeking my approval on this. I mean, you're answering these questions as if you really want approval. Let's talk about that. Can you give me a little more information about approval in your life and who approved and who didn't? And talk a little bit about that. And that also takes you into the past most of the time. Now, that's transference. Counter-transference, on the other hand, is when I, as the therapist, look at this client as, oh, they could be my child, or oh, they could be my grandchild, or oh, that could be my son or daughter. And that is very dangerous and something that counselors need to be aware of if that countertransference thing is beginning to happen, because you want to come to the table with a non-biased, lack of judgment for your client. And if you're into countertransference, there's no way you can stay away from that. So be sure you know the difference between transference and countertransference. The contemporary therapeutic models of psychoanalytical therapy are relational therapy and brief analytic theory. Obviously, we've tried to speed things up with psychoanalysis. No longer do you spend 5 years with a client, to get to the bottom of things and to work things through with them. And object relations by Otto Kernberg uses psychoanalytical theory, but also sets up an object and goes a little bit more into social context, because object, according to Kernberg, is the person, that object, that person that you are dealing most with and working through things with in your therapy. So the new approaches, you find a lot of shortened psychotherapy, but a lot of the same kind of emphasis in the past. That's something that is very, very consistent with psychoanalysis and psychoanalytical theories as you go forward. One thing I want to talk to you about is in studying the founders, and you will really see a lot in the videos of the founders and some of the PowerPoint on one of the founders that isn't included in a video, and that is Alfred Adler. And you'll see that there's all kinds of concepts that come out into the theory that come from the founder's life. For instance, I'll use Adler as an example. Adler based a lot of his theory, individual psychology, which is a part of that psychoanalytical group, on early events in life. The family constellation or birth order. And one of the things that happened to Adler when he was young was his little brother, and he slept in the same bedroom, and his little brother died while they were sleeping. And it was of such an individual impact on Adler that a lot of his theory going forward has to do with early life events, his order in the family constellation itself, and a lot about the context and the social interactions in the family and outside the family as well. So there's a lot of parallel to the theory, to the life of the founder. This is Alfred Adler's individual psychology. Adler reframed the perspective of the past into a more social context. And he also began to talk about purpose in life. And without stealing the thunder of existential therapy, which we're going to go into in Module 4, Adler certainly planted the seeds for existential therapy, which comes right after psychoanalytical, because of his purpose and meaning emphasis. And he also recognized how clients feel inferior and saw that as what I would call fodder or something to work with in therapy. And a lot of that was because Adler felt inferior in his family. So the things that I've mentioned, the new techniques that Adler brought into psychoanalytical theory were family constellation, as I mentioned, and early life events and assessment of lifestyle. So the reason I'm spending time in this introductory video about Alfred Adler is you don't have a video on him, but you have a video on Freud, Jung, Byrne, and Erikson. So I wanted to spend a little bit of extra time in this introductory video with Adler. As always, we want to look at the multicultural aspects of psychoanalytical therapy, and certainly the strength, multiculturally speaking, of the psychoanalytical therapeutic approach is that the counselor, the psychotherapist, and most of these are psychiatrists, quite honestly, that do it the old way, but not necessarily in the new contemporary models, it's a part of training for a therapist, going back to the past and helping the therapist become very aware of her own biases, prejudices, and ethnic stereotypes. So that is definitely the strength. But it's got a huge weakness in that in Freud's time, there was no thought about multiculturalism. I mean, he based the theory on a upper class, maybe some upper middle class female values. The clients were female. I'm not sure the values were all female. They were mostly patriarchal. That is definitely a weakness. And the fact that it takes so long, even the brief analytical therapy takes longer than some newer models. So it could be too costly and too time consuming for more low-income clients. And it overlooks the fact, totally, that many problems are externally sourced, like poverty, oppression, cultural devaluation, disempowerment, those kinds of things. It looks at the person as responsible for everything in her or his life. So that is definitely a weakness multiculturally of this theory. So with that, I'll summarize. How about that? Getting through this in record time. Be sure you know about the founders, the basic assumptions, the key concepts, the primary techniques, and we can't overlook free association as a technique that came out. Also, know this, just pay special attention to this. The talk therapy model was not created by Freud. It was created by an associate of his named Joseph Breuer. Know that. And of course, we covered multicultural considerations. So that's it on psychoanalytic theories. Have fun watching the videos, and I'll see you in the discussion forum. Thanks.